Hey guys, this is the Anythingers podcast with your host, Glass Bass and KCQ, where we discuss, anything.
Hey guys and girls, welcome to the Anythingers podcast with your host Glass Bass and KCQ, and we
Sup?
are at your service.
Yo, 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 yo.
And
Yeah.
now
We're going to be
may I
talking
mention
about.
today's what are we talking about again? Go on. That's what you do. What are we talking about?
So, we are going to be talking about. Dun, da, 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 we're going to be talking about serial killers. Serial killers, whether it be in the US, in different countries, because serial killers are not just based in the US, they're based everywhere. There's serial killers everywhere. So, we're going to be stalking. We're going to be talking about 6 serial killers that you might know, that you might not know. If you don't know them, then you're going to be learning something new. Also, if you're not down with serial killers, then I'm sorry. But yeah. But serial killers are very interesting. In no way am I condoning their behavior or their lifestyle or how they killed people. I think they're pieces of shit and they deserve prison time or whatever. Not necessarily death, but they deserve to be locked up. Definitely. But yeah, I'm not condoning their behavior.
Yeah, in other words, serial killers not.
It's not.
No, it's not. It's just a topic.
It's not. It's not a thing where we're like sitting here, saying like, "Oh man, they're so cool," and and I wish I was like them. It's not somebody like we look up to. It's more of a person that like, oh shit, they did this, but why? And studying the behavior of a serial killer is very interesting, and having them in our history enrooted in there is just so weird. It's so interesting that people like watch these documentaries, whether it be on Netflix or wherever they watch your documentaries, just to be interested and want to know more about the serial killer, because these people kill a lot of people. So, all right, just sit back and relax, and we're gonna get started with Glass Bass's serial killers.
Oh,
And yeah,
I went through the whole of research and all of everything. We're not starting off with common serial killers that everyone knows, like Jeffrey Dahmer. Like everyone knows that one by like default. It's really the more obscure ones that I've looked into, and one of the more obscure ones that most people don't know, because especially things we're not talking about ones in the United States of America. They happen in other countries, and one of the countries is Japan, and Japan has its fair share of serial killers. It's just so that, yeah, there is one that goes by the name of Miyazaki. I think last name is Miyazaki, if I recall.
yeah. Last name goes first, and then the first name. So Miyazaki Tsutsumo.
Yeah,
Tsutsumo? Yeah,
yeah,
Tsutsumo.
So it's basically Miyazaki Tsutomu. In Japan, he was known as the Okaku Murderer, or the other nickname, horrible nickname he had was the Little Girl Murderer. And
Oh.
and good God, yeah, this one was bad. This one was like, he had quite a reputation to the point where he's essentially basically the Jeffrey Dahmer of Japan in its own way. Like, that's not good at all. And we're talking about someone who is a serial killer, well, obviously he's a serial killer, but he was also a cannibal and a necrophile. And
Oh.
and his list of crimes is listed as basically abduction and murder of young girls, eh, 4 young girls, and he basically drank their blood. He basically ate their organs.
Oh.
Yeah, that kind of gruesome stuff. But the question is, why did Pacific Miyazaki? How did he get to the point where he's like this? And as we may notice, it may have a lot to do with how they.
A lot of like psychology behind serial killers. I'm not saying that like I'm some kind of psychologist and I study serial killers. I'm just very interested in serial killers, like just like the whole psychology behind it. But I'm not saying I'm a psychologist, but I think all of it really roots to their childhood, how they grow up, what is their family history.
This is why I want to know why. Like, think about it. You were born, and then like sometime later, something happened. He got into serial killing. The question is, what pushed him in that path? What made him be like that? So, as it turned out, he was born prematurely, and
Mm.
one of his deformity was that he had deformed hand, which was so bad to the point where the hands were like fused directly to the wrist, which means you can't move your hand normally. You can't. You actually have to like move your whole forearm to move your hand. Like, can you imagine like moving a hand except you can't move your wrist? That kind of deformity. So, yeah, when you're born with a deformity and then you go to school, he got like ostracized, he got bullied, he got everything, and he used to be a shark student. Used to be, but due to all the bullying, due to all of that, then his grade dropped and all that stuff. And then what happened was, and somewhere along the line, he moved back to his parents' house, and ge- his father wanted him to have a newspaper job, but Miyazaki wasn't feeling it. He didn't want to do it at all. So father got pissed off, got angry at him, and it was basically more family issues, and another thing to know is that he had two younger sisters. However, the two younger sisters rejected him, whether if it's a deformity, whether for whatever reason, yeah, the two younger sisters he had doesn't like him at all at this point,
Mm.
and
Were these his blood sisters or were
blood
their
sisters.
stepsister? Oh.
Yeah. Now you see where he gets even more depressed. Now you see that now he Miyazaki himself only feel like he had actual support from his grandfather. He felt keyword. He felt that he only had emotional and loving support from his own grandfather, and if that was the thing that kept him like sane away from what happened afterward, then yeah. But eventually, yeah. The thing is, Miyazaki is already feeling very isolated. He's already feeling like I'm not with people. I'm not with people just because of his deformity, just because of other people being a little bit more assholes, just because he's born with this hand condition. Again, it doesn't excuse what he did later. No shit, but I'm just giving you some context for why the history and the family dynamics and the way he was born and the way the environment he grew up in has a lot to do with why he did the crime later on. I'm just saying. So
Yeah.
so at this point, he was with the grandfather for a while, and thing is, he's already deep in depression, which would make him insane, and it gets even worse when his grandfather died. Though when his grandfather died, his depression and his insanity got even worse because his grandfather was like the only thing that was keeping him remotely normal at that point, and he got even weirder. It got to the point where, in an attempt to retain a part of his grandfather, he ate his own grandfather's ashes.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Oh no.
yeah,
That's not good.
that
Nope.
that was that's like cannibalism. It
It's
is.
like I want to be closer to my mom. We just eat her ashes. And just no. Mm.
Can you imagine eating ashes of your own? Like, what the?
That's a human being just burned. You know, they're ashes. They were it's human remains.
How you eat? How do you even eat ashes? I don't even understand that part. Like, what the?
I don't. I mean, like they you know, when they cremate a body, they have to. It's a very very high temperature. I mean, because you're burning a body, it can't just be like you're roasting a chicken. You know, like it's high as fuck to where then they get the the ashes and shit. But like your bones, your hair, your follicles, whatever is in the ashes. So what the fuck kind of like I get it. He like this is devastating for him. It would be pretty devastating for someone to lose somebody very close to them. And obviously his parents didn't really provide him love or support or in any kind of like, just like sustainability. Like even his sisters thought he was a piece of shit, and he loses the only person in his life that ever made him feel whole. Like I get that part. It's just like that transformed into something else. I'm not gonna say what it was, but holy fuck.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if the grandfather was still alive, who's to say he wouldn't have done what he did afterward? If the
I
grandfather was like,
yeah, that's a great point. Like if his grandfather did like we can't say if if his because I think he already had mental issues. Like he was suffering in depression. He was trying to commit suicide. His family didn't support him. His sister, all these things. But he had support from his grandfather. But if his grandfather, like if his grandfather was still alive, would he go into the insane murder that he committed to all these like young girls? Like would he gone down that path, or would he just stay with his grandfather?
it's just a curious alternate history you can give out. But let's go back to real history. So, yeah, his
Mm.
grandfather died. He felt like he lost something forever that was even keeping him together at that point, and he hated grandfather's ashes, and then he started attacking his own sister and attacking his own mother because, like,
Like physically attack, or is it like sexual? I don't want it to be sexual, but I know this is where this is going down. But um, so it's like physical. I think he's like,
no, it wasn't sexual in the case. It was more like physical. Well, it was both aspects. It was like, so according to this, so basically, there was a hole in the shower wall where Mizuyaki can watch her sister through the shower. Yeah, there was some creepy sister when I'm
oh,
yeah. And then
mm.
eventually one of his sister like caught him watching it. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then Mizuyaki attacked her.
Oh.
Yeah, and then now the mother learns about it, and now the mother's like, "What are you doing? Go work some more. Stop watching, stop watching your sister." And then Miyazaki attack her too, but again, attack. He didn't kill them. He just attacked them. But
Mm.
still, but as you can see, the attacking is already not normal at this point. Like you're attacking your own sister, you're watching your own sister, and you're attacking your mother. Yeah, this is where it started going downhill for Miyazaki and his mental illness and all that stuff. So later on, a little bit later on, he this is basically in the time period between 1988 and 1990, so to speak. So I think he has some latent sexual frustration, and sometimes that like explodes in a very macabre way. Going on
Yeah.
between the 2 years of like basically 1988 and 1990, he basically found four girls, abducted them, and killed them, like murdered them basically, and molested their corpse. That's just again.
So when you that's disgusting. That's gross.
And that's not even the worst part. He drank the blood of one of them, and he ate like one of the hands. That's
Oh,
Jesus Christ. And then
he ate one of their hands.
yeah, like the guy, he literally cut off a hand and then he ate it. Like he drank blood of one girl and then he ate the hand of the other girl. What the? And they're
Was it a pattern with them? Cause he has like deformed hands. Like he's gonna. It's like, oh, you like have better hands than me. I'm gonna eat one of your hands. It's kind of like that. I
maybe
don't.
who knows if he'll give formula if anything do that, but maybe again, maybe not. Who the hell knows? But yeah, it could be plausible that his own deformity wanted him to eat the hand so that he can get a better hand or some stupid. Who knows? Who the hell knows? But
I'm just saying, don't bully people. Just don't, because you do not know people's capacity for anything. you don't just don't bully people because like you don't know if if they're going through things or they have mental issues. Like just don't bully guys. Just don't. Instead, try to make friends with that person. Get to know them. Don't bully them because like they're weird looking or they have a mole on their chin. Like just get to know people. Just don't bully.
We do not condone, obviously, these murders at all. We're not condoning any of a serial killer. We're just making a point.
Obviously, no. Like I'm not we're not here to say this is so cool, look at this shit. And like we're just here, for interest purposes. But like I said, just don't bully people, guys. Don't. If you see somebody being bullied, help them out. If you're being bullied, talk to someone, you know? Don't let it like fester.
Because that bullying has consequences you could not foresee, unforeseen consequences.
You don't know people's capacities. You don't know if that person might snap one day and just like, oh, you bullied me and then kill you. Like there's been so many cases in these recent times. Um, there was a story on the news about this kid who was being bullied and he put a horse laxative in all of the like in the lemonade or the drinks of all these kids, all of this academy. He put a horse laxative in the drinks of everyone at that school. I don't know if it was everyone because the teachers weren't in fact affected, but the kids were, and they were all shitting themselves. I mean, it sounds funny, but when you actually see the video, you might cry. I cried a little bit. I was like, that's so fucked up. To like God, that's ridiculous. You just don't know people's capacity. Just don't bully. Just don't bully.
Yeah, like, needless to say, he was already having mental issues. He was already having sexual frustration issues. It was getting to the point where that literally took over his mental health, and he's doing like just like he killed like 4 girls at this point, but one case in particular was like even more fucked up, where speaking of which, it was more interesting to speak of how they got arrested because it revealed more about how they got exposed, or so to speak. So that's one thing to kill. How you get caught is the question. So he got caught by a father of a schoolgirl that he was screwing with. Now listen to this part. He was trying to put like camera lens, like a zoom lens that you put onto a camera, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Miyazaki was trying to shove a zoom lens up some schoolgirl's vagina.
Oh no.
Yeah. Keep in mind, this girl's alive, not dead. Alive. And so this is the point where the father finds about it, and then Miyazaki runs away, tried to get into a car, and then father called the police, then the police arrested him, and there you go. All because this girl had a father that saved her. Oh God. But yeah, think about that, having a zoom lens shove up on you. Just, how would I?
Holy shit. Wow. So was he sentenced to life? Was he
Well,
was it a death sentence?
well, according now, this is the arresting part. Now we're talking about the trial. Well, the trial didn't go too well. The trial was even weirder. So the trial started around 1990, and I don't even know if he had a lawyer or not. All I know is that he wasn't even making any sense at the trial, and he blamed every single one of his murders, every single one of his actions on an alter ego. An alter ego named Ratman. So Miyazaki claimed that his alter ego, Ratman, forced him to kill. And then he spent time in the trial trying to draw this alter ego Ratman in cartoon form. Like, that was his defense.
Oh shit.
Yes, yes, my honor. Yes, my honor. It was Ratman. It was totally Ratman doing it. He told me to do it. It's not my fault or some shit.
Mm.
Yeah. In other words, um, and it got even more screwed up to the point of like, he described his own murder as like an act of benevolence. In other words, he's insane. In other words, no, he's insane. So at that point, obviously he was guilty, and even the Ministry of Justice got into action and signed a death warrant, and he got hanged.
Fuck, man. He was hanged?
Yep, he was hanged.
God damn.
Officially,
You know you did some fucked up shit when you get hanged. I didn't know if they still hang people. Do they still hang people in Japan? If you know, just tell us. I'm very interested if they still hang people. I know they can't hang people in the US, but in Japan, do they still hang people when you do fucked up shit like this?
yeah, it's because his hanging date was 2008, June 17, 2008 to be specific.
Oh, 2008. Oh, holy fuck. Oh, wow. I mean, that was a long time ago, but still, like 2008. Like, whoa. Holy fuck.
Well, 10 years ago, but that's not that long ago in terms of I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, that's essentially the story of Mizuyaki. Yes, I think it's probably the only Japanese name I can even pronounce properly. I usually butcher them, keep in mind, but like I'm not kidding. But yeah, this is the story of basically a bully kid, crappy family support, and that's what happened. Don't bully people, please.
Yeah.
But,
If you're being bullied, like tell some people, tell your mom, tell your dad, like tell your principal, tell people.
I would point out that it's not really that sometimes parents don't help. Everyone is different. Even your dad may not care. Even your mom.
I mean, like in a situation where you have support from your parents, if your parents aren't in support of you, then you need to go talk to somebody that are not your parents. Talk to your aunt, talk to your best friend, talk to your principal, talk to your teacher. There's so many other people you can talk to. In that event where parents aren't your support, they aren't your, somebody to lean on, talk to somebody else, you know. But in that case, parents should be, you know, in their kids' lives, because being a kid, being a teenager, fucking sucks sometimes. And kids will bully and kids will say shit that sometimes they don't mean because they're stupid kids. But, when you're a teenager, you mean it. When you're a kid, you're a kid. But when you're a teenager, you mean that shit. You mean that shit. All right. Let's move on to your next serial killer.
We're taking turns. Let's say only I get my one. What's yours? You have a list, don't you?
Yes, I do. All right. So, let's see. Who should I start with? Actually, I'm gonna leave that one for the last. But I'm going to go over a very notorious serial killer, the first woman serial killer, is Eileen Wuornos, if you've ever heard of her. Eileen Wuornos. So she was an infamous serial killer, as you would expect. Between the years of 1989 to 1990, she had killed at least 7 middle-aged white guys, and all of them were discovered in Florida. And Eileen Wuornos, since she was very poor and she was also a prostitute, she would rob these victims before shooting them to death, and then she'd steal their cars. Yeah, but just like, I'm not saying that every serial killer's experience is the same, but from what I'm seeing, there's a pattern with serial killers, whether they're neglected or they were molested or their family suffer from mental illness. It kind of pivoted that way with Eileen Wuornos. At early age of 11, this is 11, guys. Wuornos was trading sexual favors for money, whether it was actually having intercourse, whatever, anything sexual. She was doing it for money. Beer, cigarettes, and she had a child. Anything. She would do anything for beer, cigarettes, money, whatever, you name it. At 11 years old. She's 11 years old. Also, she was, I think she was born in the 50s, at 54, I think. So at age 11, she was, prostituting herself. And at the age of 14, she had a child. And
Wait. What age did he have? Did she have? Wait. What? What age?
At the age of 14. And she said the neighbors claimed that the father was an older friend of Wuornos' grandfather. So this person that she had sex with at a very young age, at 14, because she had her baby at 14, was a grown man. I don't know exactly how old he was, but he was a grown man.
Can you imagine
if he's
if she's 28 and then you have a 14-year-old son? That's just how did that work?
I don't know exactly how old this guy was, but it was a friend of the father's. Okay, it was a friend of the grandfather's. It was a friend of the grandfather's. So I don't know how old this guy. I know he was grown because you're a friend of somebody's grandfather. I don't know. So Eileen was put up for adoption, and she, of course, due to that, she stopped. She was spending less time at home. She wasn't going there. She was hitchhiking, and she eventually started gathering up all these aliases. She wasn't going by her real name. She was just telling people she had a fake name or whatever. And she was 14 when her family kicked her out of the house. So she was very young when her family decided to kick her out. So a couple of years later, I'm assuming we're going to say that she's probably in her 30s or maybe her 40s. In 1986, Wuornos met Tyra Moore at Daytona Beach, Florida. And then these two women were in an intense lesbian relationship. And, Eileen Wuornos was, at this time, she was prostituting herself. And killing men. So her girlfriend, Tyra, didn't know that she was killing all of these men behind her back and that she was a prostitute. So she'd have sex with mainly middle-aged to lower to middle-class white men, because she knew that their weakness would be maybe they weren't getting enough sex at home or something. I don't know. But, she would see them as targets to have sex with them. And then after that, she'd shoot them, take their money, and then steal their car. Like I said, Tyra Moore, her girlfriend, had no idea what she was doing. She had no idea what she was doing. Eventually, she was found. Eventually, Tyra did grow suspicious. She worked with police, and they eventually caught Eileen. And the jury recommended the death sentence by a vote of 12-0. And these are the circumstances in which the jury concluded to find Eileen guilty of all of the murders that she committed, which she killed 7 men.
Wait. There were men that ask for sex, and then they come in, and then she get in.
So she would go. She would hitchhike. You know those people who like have their thumbs out on the side of the road. She would hitchhike. Those men would let her go into their car. They'd pick her up. They'd go to a very secluded spot in the woods, in a parking lot, whatever it may be. She would have sex with them because she was a prostitute. And she also said that she was raped and therefore started to kind of have a hatred for men. And so then she concluded to kill them. Whenever she went to go, prostitute, have sex with these men, she would, after that, she'd kill them and take their money because she knew they were middle class. She knew that they would have money on them and they have a nice car. She'd take that, So, so she'd go with these men, secluded areas, have sex with them, take their money, kill them, whatever.
Repeat the process, profit, repeat process, profit. And it's
Profit?
like kill the man, steal their expensive stuff, and like.
I mean, not necessarily them having. It's not like they had like gold chains around them or anything. She preyed on the middle class white man because either they'd be like a businessman or they'd be like they have their own shop. They had some form of money. Let's see here. La 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 la. So I'm just gonna go back to
Okay. First of all, was she caught? Was she arrested? What
I'm getting to that. All right. So these are her victims. David Spears. He was a 43-year-old construction worker and was found on June 1st, 1990 in Citrus County. Again, this is in Florida. And he had been shot 6 times in the torso. Another one of her victims, Charles Carstagadon. Sorry if I butchered that. And this happened a few days after Spears. His body was discovered. He was 40 in Pasco County, and the part-time rodeo worker had been shot 9 times in the chest and the stomach.
That's basically the typical pistol.
And then I'm not done. She has 3 more victims. Troy Burris of Berrien County law enforcement, they found his body. He was 50-year-old salesman. Marion County law enforcement found the body of Troy Burris. He was a 50-year-old salesman, and he died on August 4th, 1990. And this happened a week after Kadark Skidon, whatever his name is, died. And they discovered that the body was only partly decomposed. And the medical examiner, when they were examining the body, found that the cause of death was from 2 gunshots to the torso. So there's a pattern here. So she's shooting them in the torso, in the stomach, both very fatal gunshots. So,
I mean, you can survive gunshot, one thing.
You can survive one, but these were very fatal, and she would shoot them multiple times. When she pointed this gun to these people, she was not intending for them to live. If they were still alive, she would leave them there, and they would bleed to death eventually because they have no medical. Of course, nobody's gonna call help or anything. She leave them there. Like she knew when she was pointing that gun at them, she knew how to kill them, how to kill them. Like, of course, some people can survive from a gunshot, not saying you can't, but when she shot them, she knew she was going to kill them, where to kill them.
You mean shoot them in the heart, or shoot them in the lung?
She didn't shoot him in the heart. She shot him in the torso. And the way she did it, I don't know. Maybe it was fatal. They bled to death. Like, if they had maybe got them help, then maybe they would have survived. But they bled to death probably.
Bleeding to death. That's most likely a cause of it. I mean, that's obvious. That's
Yeah.
obvious.
So she has three more victims. Charles Dick Humphreys was a retired Air Force major, and he was a police chief and a Florida child abuse investigator. Dick Humphreys was found dead in Marion County on September 12th, 1990. So this is a month after Burris. So she was killing consecutively these men. The body was fully clothed, and he had suffered multiple gunshots to the head and the torso. And Humphrey's car was later found in Suwannee County.
I think you being shot in the head is enough. Like, shoot in the brain and you're dead. Center.
I know, but I think it wasn't just. I don't know what urged her to shoot them multiple times. Because she was so wronged as a child, I just really think she was throwing her rage and her anger at these men because she was raped, because she was misused, she was abused as a child, like all this rage, and there were all men that were involved in abusing her, all that hatred. So she's, taking out these men very consecutively, and doing it in the most awful way. So you get Peter Sims, is a 65-year-old. He left Central Florida and headed to New Jersey in June of 1990. And his car was found in Orange Springs on July 4th, 1990. And Sims' body had never been found. Witnesses described two women near the car in Orange Springs. So I don't know who these two women were. Maybe it was Eileen and Tyra, maybe. But like the body was never found. And then her last victim was Walter Antonio, and he was partially disrobed. He was 62, and he was found on November 19th, 1990, in a remote part of Dixie County, and he had been shot 4 times in the back and the head, and Antonio's car was found 5 days later in Brevard County.
Good
So,
God. Okay.
Yes.
I understand you being abused, but that doesn't mean these other I mean, it's always.
This, like I said, this does not excuse her behavior in any way, shape, or form. She knew she was going to be killing these men when she pointed the gun. She knew she was going to kill them, how she was going to kill them, and dispose of the body. But she didn't really dispose of it. She just kind of left it there. But let's see. All right, so finally getting to the conclusion of her charges. The jury that was at her trial decided that there were 5 aggravating circumstances found, and they were trying to make decisions on whether or not to charge her with all these charges that were thrown at her. But here are the circumstances that they found. Number 1 was Warnes had a previous felony conviction involving the use of threat and violence. People that were around her said she was a very violent, angry, aggravated person, and she was very erratic. The murder was committed during the commission of a robbery. Murder was committed in order to avoid arrest. Murder was heinous, atrocious, or cruel.
She killed
And
way out of situation, so to speak.
And murder was cold, calculated, and premeditated. So she knew when she was selling herself off that she would kill this person, whoever she was with, and take their money. So she knew what she was doing. It was all premeditated. Even before she got into the car, she was like, I'm going to go kill this guy, take his whatever, and do it. She also suffered from borderline personality disorder. And due to her psychological difficulties, it wasn't set as an excuse for her to just like do whatever she wanted because she had this, mental illness, because she had personality disorder. It didn't excuse her from, committing murder, and the jury decided that, despite her psychological things, that she knew what she was doing. She knew the difference between right and wrong. She knew that prostituting herself wasn't the right thing to do. She knew killing that person, wasn't right, but she did it anyway. So she knew the differences.
So she knew the differences. Yes, she decided to go ahead.
Yes. And so the judge followed the jury's recommendation of death and sentenced Warnos to the electric chair on January 31st, 1992. So she was sentenced to the electric chair in 1992, 2 years before I was born. But holy fuck.
Electrified.
Yes. I don't know, what states still have the electric chair. I think Florida still has it. I'm not sure. But yeah.
It's like that maybe they put so much electricity through your body to the point where you burn.
You basically, they tie you up. They put metal cuffs on you. They put you in a chair. They put a thing over your face, so nobody would watch your face while you're getting electrocuted to death. That's just weird. So they put that thing over your face. They set the voltage to whatever they're going to be doing it and watch you fry.
Jesus.
And there would be there'd be like a thing in front, like a room to watch this person being killed.
Yeah.
Whether it be the prosecutors or the families of the people that this person had killed, like they would sit there and watch this person fry to death. I don't understand that part. Fucking ugh. I mean, if
I see how they do it. Electric death. They do it in the head to basically jolt your brain, literally so much voltage to the point where
your brain fries. It's like your whole your brain literally melts. Like there's smoke coming out of your ears. It's fried. It's ugh. But yeah.
Yeah, so
if
you essentially get brain death, that's what the first joke does. The other joke is less powerful, but that kills the organs.
Basically.
So they get brain death from the first joke, then they get organ death on the other joke. Jeez.
Yes. And they have different forms of like death. It's not just the electric chair. I think it's inject lethal injection. I think lethal injection and the electric chair are the only ones that I'm really familiar with. Maybe they have other forms of that in other countries. I'm not sure. Now I know that Japan still hangs people. Like, I don't know. But yeah, that's Eileen Wuornos. So we're going to move on with Chrono's second serial killer.
How many serial killers are we going to go through? Everyone in the world? Every single soul we ever killed?
Well, we're supposed to do 3 each. If you want, we can cut it to 2. Whatever you think we should do.
I think I'm going to do the second one because usually our length is usually like around an hour, and let's just keep it at that. And our running time is roughly 45 minutes. So let's move on to the second serial killer.
I think we're going to be going slightly over 45 minutes. It's okay though. Because whatever. But yeah, we can do 2. I have my third one. I'm going to just do my favorite. I really want to do this person. So yeah, you go.
Let me get this straight. The one you talked about before is not your favorite? Because that sounds like...
No. I know about Eileen Wuornos because I've seen many documentaries about it. I watched the movie Monster. It's a great movie, by the way. If you haven't seen Monster, it's a great movie. It's starring Christina Ricci, and fucking what's her name? Uh damn it. Charlize Theron. And it's a great movie. She did fucking great. She looked just like Eileen Wuornos. She looked damn. I'm not saying Eileen Wuornos was ugly, but she was very intense looking. It was a great movie. Great. If you haven't seen Monster, highly recommend. It's a great movie.
No, I have not seen Monster.
It's great. It's great. It's great.
How
So yeah,
convinced
your
compared to Monster.
so your second serial killer, my dear.
My second one arranges from a land of Rus, the land of Russia, or back in the let's say yes, it is Russia, but back then we're talking like we're talking Soviet Union, Ukraine area. That's what we're talking. And the name of this serial killer is Sakiri Takax. Now, I think Russian name is just easy for me to butcher a Japanese one either. So again, full Russian name that's in English, keep in mind is Sakiri Takax. Yeah, you see, it's tricky. Sorry, I'm sorry, but it is.
I think you butchered the Russian more than you did the Japanese.
Yeah, well, this one, his upbringing, for some reason, it doesn't seem like he grew up with like much abuse. It doesn't seem like he grew up with that. And as it turned out, so basically, he served in the Soviet Army, and then he became a police criminal investigator, and he was so good to the point where he was going to be recommended to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, which is like a step tier of criminal investigation, in other words, but in Soviet times, until he fucked up, until he would call like making evidence. He would call faking evidence for whatever reason, and then he had to resign from there. And then afterward, this guy, Chazak, let me say his name again. Shahuri Chahak. I can't do Russian names. I don't know.
Shihiri, I suck at Russian. I will absolutely butcher that. You're gonna probably have to put that in Google Translate because I
Yeah,
can't.
you know what? Yeah, let me see you say this name. Yeah, go ahead. Do a better job.
Sir, I don't know Russian. I absolutely cannot pronounce. Yeah, I can't help you. Sir, Sergey Takach.
See? It's harder than Japanese sometimes. I swear. It is, if you think about it. Like, Shahid Takak, is that how you say it? Is there a different way of saying it? Because
I'm really good at pronouncing stuff in Japanese. This is Russian is another ballpark.
yeah, it's just like completely different territory with these Russian names, basically like anything else. But anyway, he got caught faking everything. He had to resign, and then he had to work numerous different jobs. He didn't have a stable job anymore at that point, and then he moved to the Ukraine SSR. Now, keep in mind, back in like 1982, the Soviet Union. Oh, okay. To give you some context in history, technically speaking, the Soviet Union is not Russia. Soviet Union was like a Russian version of like the United States. So Ukraine was considered part of the Soviet Union. In other words, you get the idea. It's kind of like it, but kind of ish. But again, Soviet Union is not Russia because Russia itself doesn't have all of the other state that was attached to it, and when it broke down. Just to give it, I'm going off on a tangent, but anyway, let's move on. So he moved to Ukraine, where he began working as a police criminal investigator right there. So he got a job again as a police criminal investigator. Now, for some reason, this is where his serial killer behavior started. For some reason, you see, not all serial killers need to have a bad background or child abuse or whatever. Not all of them need that. They just have that certain mindset. They just have that. They're just born with it. In other words, you can't explain it.
I don't think you're born to be a serial killer though.
Is it?
I mean like what gene is there to I mean, some people are just kind of, they're born kind of like, I mean, I guess, I don't know. But
I
I don't
don't
know,
know.
whatever you guys,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think you could,
Can you?
I mean, you can be born with a mental illness. You can be born with like something wrong with you. I mean, maybe. I mean, I think you can be born with a propensity for, just like the odd or like just stuff. But like, can you be born a serial killer? Because no child is born just like, yeah, I'm going to kill this person. I think somehow it's all like, it's all just like not taught, but sometimes it all lies how you were treated, whatever. Just, I don't know.
Good God. So yeah. Anyway, back to today's o'clock. Since he had a police background, since he had, criminal, since he had the knowledge to investigate, like criminal investigation, even though he started doing serial killing. Now we're talking about his body count. We're talking about the fact that he killed 37 women and girls in Ukraine from between 1980 to 2005.
Oh,
And the only reason he got away for that long was because of his police background, which let him know that he committed the crime, and then what he would do in one case after one killing, he would shoot a victim near railway lines, and and here's the difference: they usually have police dogs, so to speak. You know, police dogs usually chase you down, but if you commit the murder near a railway line that's recently treated with tar, you cover up the scent of the crime with the tar that they put on railway track, so police dog can't smell it.
oh wow.
Yeah, so that's how he got away with a lot of the acts because he knew what he was doing. He knew how to throw off, police dog scent. He knew the police background of what they do. So
Did he do anything to the bodies?
did he do anything to the bodies? Oh God, yes he did. They were raped. They were suffocated. They were. He did necrophiliac acts on them, and then
Oh,
and then I think he put them near the railway line to make it look like the victim was run over by a train,
Jesus.
which is which is kind of clever in a sick way. But from what I'm thinking, yeah, the victim was already dead. Put them in a railway track, put him like next to a train, and make it look like the girls died from a train accident or got run over or something. I think.
Jesus.
Yeah, pretty clever for him again in a sick fuck way, but yeah. But and even more fucked up was that how he got arrested and convicted and imprisonment and all that stuff. So around in like August 2009, he actually attended the funeral of one of his victims. Like
Oh, wow.
the serial
How
killer,
cocky is that?
he
That is so cocky. It's like, yeah, I just killed somebody, go to their funeral. Just, wow. Like, you were the reason why they are in that fucking, like, coffin. Like, what?
yeah,
That's so cocky.
and
What an
that's
asshole.
and that's what brought him down because you go to the funeral of the woman that you just killed,
People are
and
going to notice.
yeah, they didn't notice, and what they know, and what a bunch of kids were at the funeral, and what they noticed was that he was being awfully a little bit too close to the victim, like he wasn't even related to the victim. You're being awfully something is off about the picture, like, but at this point they know they have like what 36 other dead bodies, other 36 cases, right? And there's something seems off about this funeral in the first place. So they're like, why are you here? Oh, but you know how funerals work. You're not supposed to be invited to one, if I recall. So the fact that he showed up to his own victim's funeral is what caught him in the first place. Honestly, I think.
Wow.
So he got caught just because of a logic of the whole thing, to be honest. And Yes, he was arrested at his own home, and he admitted to his own crime. But he claimed to have killed over 100 people. Although we don't have evidence beyond the 37 that he killed. He claimed to have killed 100 though, so who knows? God help us
Holy
all.
fuck.
And he actually demanded the death penalty. He wanted the death penalty for his crime. Yeah, go figure. But they had a 1 year trial. What they did instead was they gave him life imprisonment, and basically, so here's the sad part. Not about him, but what happened after basically the killing period was like what, between 1980 and 2005. So in that time span, 15 men were jailed wrongly for the crimes that he did, and one of them committed suicide.
Wow.
One innocent man committed suicide because he was wrongly jailed for the crime that Chazak did. Yeah, I think that's even more.
Wow. What a cocky son of a bitch.
Not even mention that. Well, right now he's still in prison, and he's not gay. He's still in prison. Yeah,
So he's not gonna. They didn't give him the death penalty then.
he's still in life imprisonment, but and that's where that's where there's a documentary on Netflix called Inside the World's Toughest Prison. There's a piece about him in that documentary on Netflix, and the weirdest thing is that he had a kid. He has a kid in prison with a woman in the 20s who was like infatuated with him after like reading an interview about him. And then the woman
Ugh.
and then this woman married this guy, and she got a conjugal visit with him.
Ugh. I,
How did that work?
I don't know how somebody could find somebody like I don't know if I could love somebody who killed women, raped them,
She married a
and
guy that
had sex with their bodies like that. Like he did so much fucked up shit, and he was a cocky fuck. Like Jesus Christ. And this chick just
37 women and girls suffering some fucked up shit, and you married him? Like, who'd say?
I think in that moment when people have like I think there's a fascination with serial killers because of psychological stuff. Whether they had a fucked up childhood, whether they didn't, whatever. People think that serial killers are fascinating because the psychology behind how they did it, what they did, how they whatever. I just I I mean in some fascinations become obsession. I don't think there's like when she married this guy, I don't think she was like, "Oh wow, I'm so fascinated behind his murder." Like she was obsessed. I mean, you have to be obsessed with somebody and then like that obsession turned into them having a kid. And
I feel bad for the kid, and the kid would be like, "Yeah, my dad's a serial killer." Yep.
wait, you said like the kid is in prison too, right?
No, the kid's not in prison.
Oh,
The kid does not bear the sin of his father, because that's bullshit. The kid is innocent.
that is bullshit. Sorry, I thought you said that the kid was in prison too.
No,
Um,
no.
but yeah, just
I was just thinking about the moral implication of you having an innocent kid, yet his parents were like clearly way over the bound of being innocent at that point, and it just makes you wonder. Yeah, you are your own person. Everybody's their own person, but like, yeah, your dad killed like 37 people. So
yeah, like he has to bear that that kind of burden for like the rest of his life, like because his father was that. Doesn't mean that he is his father, in no way, shape, or form, because he is his own person. But that's just really fucked
I
up.
think the way this works is that the woman is taking care of the kid outside of the prison while the father is still in prison and they're visiting through conjugal visit. I just don't know.
Mhm.
I just don't understand how this family works.
I mean, maybe he could be a really good father. We don't know. Well, obviously he can't do anything because he's in prison. But who knows? Maybe he's a really good father. And yeah.
I think there's just some relationships we will never understand.
Exactly.
There's just some shit we just will never understand because we are not them. We're not in the situation, and this is just one of those situations where we don't understand it. But somehow this woman did. Somehow this woman, in her mind, wanted to, and we don't know
Mm,
because it's not for us to know.
there you go. All right. So
Your turn.
I'm gonna go on with the last serial killer. Been waiting for this one. Just because like the this guy has become so infamous, and I'm also gonna read one of his letters. Um,
Oh,
I'm doing.
Read me.
I have a letter that he wrote to the family anonymously. He wrote this sick fucking letter to the family of one of the victims that he killed. We're gonna get into that. But if you are triggered in any way, you can stop listening right now. Because this letter is super fucked. Like it's sick. It's sick. One of the police people that were in charge of this investigation of this man, Albert Fish, even he said that he will never let anybody read this letter because it's so disgusting and so just vulgar. But, of course, because, media and everything, the letter is online. You can read it. You can look for it anywhere. It's there. Um, so this man named Hamilton Howard Albert Fish. I guess Albert was like his nickname or something. He had many nicknames, which was the Gray Man, the Werewolf of Wisteria, the Brooklyn Vampire, the Moon Maniac, and the Boogeyman.
How you get that kind of nickname? It was like back in the 1930s.
Because he's a sick fuck. Anyway, this guy, he was born in 1870, May 19th, 1870. And like he lived to like January 16th, 1936. So as a child, he was plagued by mental illness. And so was his whole family. His whole family was plagued by mental illness. They called this mania.
The mental illness seemed to be a driving factor behind all this. It just seemed to be a thing.
I mean, like you said, like there's not really, like they can have like a pretty normal childhood and something triggers something where they just start killing people. Like I think there's a trigger somewhere in there, even if their childhood is fairly normal. Like their parents, their father, their mother, whoever raised them are fairly normal. Like something probably triggers it. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but anyway, growing up in this time, if a woman, a man, or whatever, if you were going through like they didn't know anything about mental illness, like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder.
Oh, yeah.
That was not established. What if you did have this, and they called it mania? They called it mania. Let me talk. They called it mania. So if you were suffering from whatever kind of mental disorder that you were going through, they called it mania, and they put you in an asylum because you have to be rid of your demons or whatever. And yeah, that sparked like lobotomies and shit like that, where they thought they were releasing your demons or some shit. It was just an excuse for people to drill holes in your head. But anyway, his mother had hallucinations, and his father was 75 years older than him, made for tumultuous childhood, and because of all of this, because like his mother was suffering from hallucinations, and his dad was 75 years older than him. Holy fuck!
Wait. What about the father? Like, how old is the father?
75 years older than him. 75. Like his dad was old as fuck. Holy shit.
Are we talking about a 50-year-old who had just like a 50? Wait, let me get this straight.
I don't know how old his mother was, And I don't know how old the father is, but he said 75 years older than whatever. So anyway, because of this, because he was so badly abused, because his mother was like all of his family was just really just fucked up. And so he had to go to orphanage. And this is where his thirst for torture, his sickness began. So the caretakers of the orphanage that he was in, they would beat the children like all the time. The children were encouraged to beat each other up, and the children always were in like they were just children are like God, children are sponges. Like, you know, whatever you say, whatever you do, they're gonna just like absorb that, and they're gonna live with that pain. So these children, because the caretakers of the orphanage were so violent, that these children were always in like they were living in fear. They were always in pain. But Fish, because he suffered from mental illness, he liked it. He found it stimulating. You know, he found getting beat all the time. Like the other kids, obviously, they weren't feeling it. They were like, oh shit, we're going to get beat today. But Fish, he liked it. He enjoyed it. He found it stimulating. He was like, yes, I love this. And so when his mom removed him from the orphanage, his mom eventually removed him from the orphanage. I guess when her mania calmed and was cured, she took him out of the orphanage, and then that didn't stop Fish's, you know, whatever. It didn't stop his sickness. It basically just continued to grow and morph into ugliness. Just it gets worse, way worse. Okay, so I'm getting there. It gets fucked up. This man, wow. Okay, so in 1882, he began a relationship with a telegraph boy, and this telegraph boy, they were both, I guess, they were homosexual. I don't know. Back in these days, it was very frowned upon to be homosexual, bisexual, lesbian, whatever. Being gay was not okay. Being gay, you had to do in secret. Otherwise, they could potentially kill you. They could ostracize you. They could banish you. You could just go dig in a hole and die for all they cared. They just did not like gay people. But anyway, he began this relationship with a telegraph boy, and they would do these really weird, like urinagia and chorophagia, where it is the consumption of shit. So these two, they developed a relationship, and they developed, like, I guess, a fetish for eating shit. I don't. So anyway, after this, it eventually just sparked into other shit. He started, you know, having a fascination with sexual self-mutilation. He would regularly embed needles into his groin and his abdomen. So when he died, I think they found like needles in his crotch and like his fucking hips, because he used to stick needles in his hips and his groin and his dick and shit. And he would flog himself with a nail-studded ping pong paddle. So he's very into torture and pain and mutilation and just sticking things where they did not belong. So Fish was very much sick. So eventually, because Fish was... Wait, are you still there?
So yeah, that was quite like, murdery, gross details.
I'm not done. So anyway, because of all of this, the self-mutilation, yeah, that's exciting, that's stimulating, whatever, and he was doing it on other people. It wasn't enough for him. He wanted more. He wanted more excitement. So he no longer wanted to inflict pain on himself. He wanted to do it on others. So in 1910, he was working as a house painter in Delaware. and he met this man called Thomas Keaton. And Keaton and him began a sadomasochistic relationship. And Keaton, I don't know. And also, it's unknown to how much of Keaton actually consented to, but they started the sadomasochistic, relationship or whatever. So only 10 days after meeting this guy, I guess it was coerced, or it wasn't enough for him. Like what they were doing, it wasn't enough for him. Like Fish wanted more. He wanted more stimulation. So he invited Keaton to a farmhouse and told him a lie. Like it was just going to be them meeting up and hanging out or whatever. And he locked him inside of this farmhouse. So he pay attention. So Fish invited Keaton over to an abandoned farmhouse, and I guess he told him like, yeah, we're gonna hang out. So Keaton went, and this was Fish's trap. So he lied to Keaton and he locked him inside of the farmhouse. So for 2 weeks inside of this farmhouse, Fish was torturing Keaton and mutilating his body. He cut off his penis, and then after that,
Are you done or not done? Like, holy
I am not done. After this, he cut off his penis, and then after this, Keaton gave him, I think it was leaving. I think he gave Keaton $10 for his trouble. So he was like, "Here's $10. I'm sorry I cut off your penis."
wait.
He gave him $10. This motherfucker He gave this poor man $10 for his trouble. He locked him in a farmhouse for 2 weeks, tortured him, mutilated him, cut off his penis, and gave him $10.
Let me get this straight. He got chopped off and he gained $10 for it.
$10 was a lot of money back then, I'm guessing. I mean, like, you could probably buy yourself a house. I don't know.
No. We gotta look up what.
$10 was a lot of money. I mean, like,
But what did he get chopped off? I don't know. Hold on.
no money should be worth enough to get to have your any kind of sexual reproductive organ chopped off. And like, if somebody chopped off my thing, I don't want $10. I'm gonna sue your ass, bitch. But I don't know. Circumstances were different back then, I guess.
Actually,
So anyway, I'm not done.
Listen, though. $10 back then, listen to $143 nowadays.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of money. It was a lot of money. If you had $100, you were balling. Like, now that ain't shit. But like back then, you could probably buy a car or something. I don't know. Not a house. I don't think you can buy a house, but
Generally speaking, every dollar back then, it's like $10. Wait, no, hold up. $1 back then, it's like.
okay. Anyway, all right. So anyway, I'm not done. So anyway, 1917, Fish began to fall into, like, he began to fall victim to the mental illness and that plagued his family. So he was falling into this. He was now having this mental illness. He's falling into it. He began to have auditory hallucinations, and he even one time wrapped himself in a carpet, and he claimed to be John of the Apostle.
What now? What the?
He wrapped himself in a carpet, and basically he claiming to be following the words of John the Apostle. Okay. All right.
What? Okay.
So.
Is he even caught at this point? What the hell is he? What? Like.
Okay, so after this, this was just like his penchant for, self-harm. Like, this was all just related to his things. He began.
He's an emo. Is that right? He's a serial killer emo. Oh, I have pain.
I wouldn't really put him in the category of being an emo. This man was very, very mentally disturbed, and I don't think I would categorize him as being an emo. This man was very mentally disturbed. He hurt people. He killed children. He was a rapist. Like he used to like kidnap children, rape them, and eat their bodies. Like he was a fucked person. Like I would never put him in a category of being emo. Like he's not. He's mentally disturbed. They just did not have any kind of, treatment for this man back then. Whatever kind of shit that you were facing, if you were facing hallucinations, if you were having bipolar disorder, they called it mania, and they sent your ass to an asylum because you're crazy. That's a stamp that they would put on you because you're crazy. If a woman was on her period and she was moody, they'd be like, "Oh, you're crazy. Put her in the asylum because she's on her period and she's moody." And that's a common thing with women on their period. They get moody. They get whatever. They get but that was just, people didn't know. People didn't have that kind of thing. All right. So
Good.
I'm gonna read this letter that Mr. Fish.
Wait, was there
No. There wasn't another. There was one letter. What I was just talking about was pretty much the introduction to Fish's
the whole
sick.
Thing you just saying was just an introduction. Yeah, but like
That was just basically an introduction of Fish's very fucked up childhood, his life, the way he carried himself. That was just introduction. He proceeded to start killing children and eating them. All of the shit, like his obsession with mutilation and like self-mutilation and all that shit, and like that just kind of that evolved into something else. That evolved into sicker things. He was already sick, but now he was just getting into other sicker territory. So anyway,
he become the devil himself at that point. Like,
we're getting there. Let me read this. So anyway, on May 25th, 1928, Mr. Fish read this ad in a paper that was posted by a young man named Edward Budd. And then he said to himself that he would want to murder Bud. He wanted to murder Bud at this point because he saw him in the ad or whatever. So, Fish he has an extensive background. He has a very extensive resume. He is a rapist. He is a murderer, and he is some kind of fetishist. He is very sick. So anyway, at this point, he is very accomplished, I would say. So anyway, he visits Bud's
You mean quote unquote accomplished?
Okay, let me read this. You keep talking. So anyway, he accomplished or whatever. So he visits Bud's family under the pretense of offering the man a job. So he goes to this kid's family. He goes to Bud's family and pretends to be some dude that he's looking for work, and he's trying to hire this. So he wants to hire Bud. So he met his 10-year-old sister, Grace, and Fish decided to change his mind. Fish totally had a freaking epiphany. He no longer wanted Bud. He wanted Grace. And Grace was 10 years old at this time. So this is the letter that I'm about to read. This letter was sent to Grace's and Bud's mother after killing and eating this little girl. And this eventually led to Fish's arrest, obviously. So he killed this little girl, Grace. She was 10 years old. 10 years old. So anyway, I'm going to read this letter. Again, if you are queasy in any way, shape, or form, just, yeah.
But first of all, if you got to the point, you have the stomach.
Yeah, you have the stomach. Wow. Congratulations. Anyway, here is the letter. So, my dear Mrs. Budd, oh God, am I going to sneeze? Okay. In 1894, a friend of mine shipped as a deckhand on a steamer Tacoma, Captain John Davis. They sailed from San Francisco to Hong Kong, China. On arriving there, he and the other two went ashore and got drunk. When they returned, the boat was gone. At that time, there was a famine in China. Meat of any kind was $1 to $3 a pound. So great was the suffering among very poor that all children under 12 were sold for food in order to keep others from starving. A boy and a girl under 14 was not safe in the street. You could go in any shop and ask for steak, chops, or stew meat. Part of the naked body of a boy or girl would be brought out and just what you wanted to cut from it. A boy and girl's behind, which is the sweetest part of the body, is sold as wait, I've lost my blah, la, 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 which is the sweetest part of the body and is sold as veal cutlets, brings the highest price. John stayed there so long that he acquired a taste for human flesh. On his return to New York, he stole 2 boys, one 7, one 11. He took them to his home, stripped them naked, and tied them up in a closet, and then burned everything they had on. Several times every day, several times every day and night, he spanked them, tortured them to make their meat good and tender. First, he killed the 11-year-old boy because he had the fattest ass. And of course, most meat on it. Every part of his body was cooked and eaten except the head, bones, and guts. He was roasted in the oven, all of his ass, boiled. So I'm not saying like this is actually in the letter. Like this was.
Are you sure you're not reading a screenplay?
No, I'm not like ad-libbing. This was in the letter. It says every part of his body was cooked, eaten except the head, bones, and guts. He was roasted in the oven, all of his ass. Was in the letter. So this letter is known to be very graphic, very vulgar. So he doesn't skip a beat. So anyway, boiled, broiled, fried, and stewed. This little boy was next, and he went the same way at that time. I was living at 409 East 100th Street. He told me so often how good human flesh was, and I made up my mind to taste it. On June 3rd, 1928, I called on you at 406 West 15th Street and brought you a pot cheese and strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat on my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her. On the pretense of taking her to a party, you said yes, she could go. Okay, so I just want to kind of fill in this. Back then, when people came up to your door and say, "Hey, I need some extra work. Can your child come work for me?" Nobody said no. People were just like, "Yeah, sure. We need extra money."
Are you implying people were like naive more?
People were more trusting back then. Obviously, if you come up to somebody's door now, people are like, "Get the fuck off my porch. I'm going to shoot you." But obviously back then, people were trusting. People were poor too. So like you need all the help you can get. So people would have their children working, they would work, and people would like, if you needed work done, like somebody could just come up to your house and be like, "Yeah, I need somebody to work in my store. You think your son could help out or whatever?"
But that's just saying that everyone was helping each other back then. What happened?
Everybody was it was a little bit more trusting. People used to help more people back then. That's where I'm getting at. So yeah, anyway. Continuing, on a pretense of taking her out to the party, and you said yes, she could go. I took her to an empty house in Westchester I had already picked out. When we got there, I told her to remain outside. She picked wildflowers and went upstairs and stripped all my clothes off. I knew if I did not, I would go get her blood on them. When I was ready, I went out to the window and called her. Then I hid in the closet until she was in the room. When she saw me all naked, and she began to cry and turned to run downstairs. I grabbed her, and she said she would tell her mama. First, I stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death, then cut her in small pieces so I could take the meat to my rooms, cook, and eat it. How sweet and tender her little ass was. I'm not ad-libbing this. This was in the fucking letter. This sick fuck put this in there. It says how sweet and tender her little ass was roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. I did not fuck her, though I could have if I wished. She died a virgin.
I think my soul left my body.
And then they have a picture of her. Jesus.
And you're telling me this was 1930s or something?
This was like 1930. Wait, let me go back. This was about... this is about the early 30s, late 20s. This is like 1928.
People are still fucked up, no matter what time, no matter, like, it doesn't even matter, like, there's no time, it's anything. It's always something.
So this is the letter that then led to his arrest. So the story of Captain Davis and the Chinese famine was never corroborated. So they never really got any information from these people, because they're in China, and the other person, they don't know where the fuck he is. He's a captain on a ship. He could be anywhere. But the description of Grace's Bud's death was accurate, like every fucking detail. And this fucker, he did not deny that he killed this little girl. He did not deny it. He was like, yes, I killed her. I ate her. I ate her twinder ass or what. Ugh. And
it was like every sweet ounce of mercy you had in your soul was stripped out.
So,
everything.
The police used this information on stationery paper, and so they could find Fish and locate him and detain him. And then in 1936, in New York Sing Sing Correctional Facility, he was executed by electric chair.
I don't think electric chair was enough at that point.
I mean, that he was executed.
What if you cook him the way he killed his victim and you do the same to him? And then you really...
This is why I wanted to leave this one for last, because this one is very intense and it has different levels. Like the level of Fish's like fucking depravity just like totally shifted from just him enjoying pain in the orphanage to him, eating flesh of little boys and girls. Like he didn't care. He had no amount of like, good God. And this is why I wanted to leave this for last.
Born without the conscience in the back of my mind. They were born with no sense of morality. They didn't have that concept, or it just didn't work.
I don't think it was that these people weren't born because of Albert's family history. He was put into the world of just depravity. His mother was very mentally ill, and his father was old and just wasn't taking care of him right. Like he couldn't raise him. Like he was just old, and his mother was very sick. So he's put in an orphanage and he was beat, and this somehow sparked some kind of just, I don't know. He was already very mentally ill in his home, and he went into this orphanage, and it got worse because he was beat and he liked it. And that was just depravity just evolved to something else. With the other two, like the guy who was bullied and had a deformity with his hand, like it was all like just triggered by like the deformity or just like the way he was treated by his family. Like his mom, his dad, they were always making him work. They were always trying to push things on him. that he just didn't want to do. He wanted to do newspaper, or he wanted to do video or whatever, but they were always pushing them to do what they wanted. So like I think it was just like perception and just, and the Russian guy, I mean, he sounded like he came from a pretty fairly normal family. I think it's just triggers in this.
Yeah, I don't think it always. It's just it's different. You don't always need a screwed up upbringing. Something.
But like for most serial killers, that is how it is. They grew up in a very hostile environment to where they couldn't be a kid, or like their moms, their dads beat them, raped them, abused them, whatever. And that triggered something in them that was just like, oh, well, you're not going to do this to me. I'm going to go assert my violence on some other human being or whatever. It's just, it's fucked up.
In other words, don't beat up your kid. Be an actual parent for once. I mean,
just like if you have kids, talk to them, love them, whatever you need to do. Like, don't beat them, love them. But like, if you know that you can't have kids because of like any kind of thing, whether it be like your own selfishness, like you just don't want to have kids, don't have kids then. Do not. Because that child who you're bringing into the world does not ask to be brought into the world. They're not like, yeah, I'm going to be born. Fuck yeah. They're just brought into the world and they don't know that. So don't have kids if you can't handle them. Just don't.
You create a new soul when you do a new soul of a blank mind.
Exactly. It's crazy. Like all these people, like from what I'm reading right now, have had some kind of trauma in their childhood, and that evolved into something that so depraved and so disgusting. Like Eileen, freaking the Japanese guy, the Russian guy, Fish, like they're all just fucking depraved and just sick.
No one is disagreeing with that.
Yeah, exactly. After reading Fish's letter and his whole backstory, I am supremely depressed and sad, because it's so sad that the little girl Grace, has to die like that under such horrendous freaking circumstances. That is just holy fuck. And like every other person in this podcast, the victims of the Russian guy, the victims of Eileen, the victims of the Japanese guy, that is so fucked up. And I'm sorry for the families of that, that's so fucked up. Well, I'm depressed.
Yeah, it was you a serial killer. It's such a dark, subject matter. What did you expect?
I mean, serial killers are interesting. They are pretty.
You knew it brought darkness.
They're interesting and they're dark and they're just, I don't know, they're unsettling. And I think that's why people watch documentaries about them or they read books about them. Like freaking Charles Manson. Like, he's the most prolific serial killer in like history, and people can't get enough of this dude. Like, God.
Charles Manson, I forgot what you did already. What was he again?
Helter Skelter. He had a cult and he made like these teenage girls. They went to this, I forgot her name. Oh, Sharon Tate. They went to this famous woman, Sharon Tate's house in Hollywood, and she was pregnant. And Charles Manson didn't actually do anything. He cooperated, but he didn't actually go out with these girls and, kill them. He asked they were brainwashed. He told them, go to this chick's house and kill her baby. So they went to Sharon Tate's house in Hollywood, fucking tore out, like killed her, took her, took the baby, killed the baby, and like they had the placenta, they ate the placenta, and then like they smeared and wrote Helter Skelter on the walls. Yeah. Charles Manson did not do any of it, but he told these girls to go do it for him. And he also was like freaking telling everybody there's going to be a race war and shit and everything. All this bullshit. He wrote a book. He was sick. He was a sick person. And he knew how to make people do shit for him. These girls were teenage girls, and obviously they were just easily influenced or something, and he just made them do stuff.
Are the girls just really impressionistic? Do they not think in themselves? Do they not, what's wrong with the picture?
I don't know. I don't know what made them do it. It's just they were very easily influenced by his words, and people said that Charles Manson just he was very charismatic. He can make people do shit. And I don't know, he made these girls go kill people. So I don't know what that says about the girls or just Charles Manson, but he made these girls go do it. And they weren't babies. They were probably 16, 17 when they did this. So they were young, but they were at an age where you should know what you do. You should know. You should know if, killing somebody is a bad thing. You should know that that's just, you shouldn't do that. Difference between right and wrong.
Yeah, that memo not entirely taken by everyone.
Yeah. But, yeah, serial killers are fascinating, very sick, very indulgent creatures, and people are.
Keep in mind, these people are humans, physically, that is, of course, in other aspects, they're not.
And a lot of children are scared of monsters, under their bed or, horror movies or something like that. But it's really the humans in the world that are the monsters, and all of these people were monsters in their own given right. Charles Manson too. He was a fuckhead. But yeah.
If there's anything we can tell you is find someone out there or talk to someone that actually gives a shit about you, actually cares for you. I don't care if it's a therapist. I don't care if it's a principal. I don't care if it's your mother. I don't care if it's your dad. I don't care if it's your uncle. I don't care if it's that neighbor down the street. There is that one soul out there that cares.
Talk to somebody. There's people out there that are willing to hear whatever you need to say. Yeah, like Glass Bass said, if it's a friend or it's a mother, if it's a father, if it's a grandmother, grandfather, whoever, just talk to them. If you're being bullied, tell someone. If you can't tell your parents, then tell somebody else. Just holy fuck. Just talk to someone.
Yeah, talk to someone because your parents, it's just someone. It has to be someone at this point before you descend into your own hell. Don't go to hell. Go to your place.
Yeah, well, we don't know where we're gonna go when we die, so
it's just a metaphor. Don't go to don't go to the hell that you would make, but find someone instead.
Exactly. But with that being said, we're gonna end this podcast, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday. And
much enjoyable.
Yes, we promise it'll be a little bit. We promise it'll be a little bit more lighthearted than this.
At
It's
this point,
got yeah.
I just want to talk about puppies and maybe kittens or.
Yeah, I need to go cleanse myself with a YouTube video or a kitten video, whatever the fuck. Even playing PT right now would extinguish me from this grief that I'm feeling.
Can we just like watch like puppy video, just watch the puppies hug each other and go wah, wah, meow meow, and then
All right. Well, we're gonna be signing off, guys. We'll see you next week, and take care. Bye, nerds.
back signing off, watching a puppy video, and